When I married my husband Ryan 2 years ago, I thought I was gaining not just a loving partner, but also a supportive extended family. Ryan's older brother Marcus seemed particularly welcoming at first. He was successful, charming, and always made a point to include me in family gatherings and conversations about business and career goals. Marcus owned a successful marketing consultancy and had built quite a reputation in our city's business community. He was 35, unmarried, and seemed to thrive on being the golden child of the family. Ryan always looked up to his older brother and frequently sought his advice on everything from investments to career decisions. I had just started my own graphic design business when Ryan and I got married. After years of working for other people and dealing with demanding bosses who never appreciated my creativity, I had finally taken the leap to become my own boss. It was scary but exhilarating, and I was determined to make it work. Marcus seemed genuinely interested in my business from the beginning. He would ask detailed questions about my clients, my pricing strategies, and my long-term goals. He even offered to help me network with some of his business contacts, which I thought was incredibly generous. For the first year, everything seemed perfect. My business was growing steadily, Ryan was supportive of my entrepreneurial dreams, and Marcus continued to play the role of the encouraging brother-in-law. He would often bring up my success at family dinners, praising my talent and work ethic in front of Ryan's parents. But I started noticing subtle changes in Marcus's behavior around the time my business really began to take off. I had landed several high-profile clients and was earning more money than I had ever made in my life. My work was being featured in local business publications, and I was even asked to speak at a few networking events. That is when Marcus's true colors began to show. It started with small, seemingly innocent comments. He would make remarks like, "It must be nice to have such easy clients," or, "I remember when I thought small local projects were impressive." At first, I assumed he was just trying to motivate me to aim higher, but the comments became more frequent and more cutting. Then he started questioning my pricing and business practices in front of the family. During a Sunday dinner at Ryan's parents' house, Marcus brought up how some people in creative industries overcharge clients who do not know better. He made it sound like a general observation, but his eyes were fixed on me the entire time. Ryan's parents, who had always been proud of my success, started asking questions about whether I was being fair to my clients. Marcus had planted seeds of doubt about my integrity without directly accusing me of anything. But Marcus was not content with just undermining my reputation within the family. He had much bigger plans to destroy my success. The first major blow came when I lost 3 significant clients within the same month. These were clients I had been working with for almost a year, and they had always expressed satisfaction with my work. Suddenly, they were all terminating their contracts with vague explanations about budget constraints or changing directions. I was devastated and confused. Losing 3 major clients simultaneously put a serious strain on my finances and my confidence. When I tried to follow up with these clients to understand what had gone wrong, they were evasive and uncomfortable, clearly not wanting to discuss the real reasons for ending our partnerships. Around the same time, I noticed that potential new clients who had initially seemed very interested in my services would suddenly become cold and distant after our initial meetings. I would send follow-up emails and make phone calls, but the responses were always the same. They had decided to go with someone else or had put their projects on hold. My business, which had been thriving just months earlier, was suddenly struggling to survive. I was working twice as hard for half the income, and the stress was starting to affect my marriage. Ryan tried to be supportive, but I could see the worry in his eyes as our financial situation became more precarious. That is when Marcus made his move. During a family barbecue, Marcus pulled Ryan aside for what appeared to be a private conversation. I could not hear what they were discussing, but I saw Ryan's expression change from casual interest to serious concern. After their conversation, Ryan seemed distant and troubled. Later that evening, Ryan sat me down for what he called a difficult conversation. He explained that Marcus had shared some concerning information about my business practices and suggested that maybe I should consider going back to working for an established company instead of struggling with my own business. When I pressed Ryan for details about what Marcus had told him, Ryan was reluctant to share specifics. He just kept saying that Marcus was worried about me and thought I might be in over my head. The implication was clear. Marcus had convinced my own husband that I was failing as an entrepreneur. That night, I lay awake thinking about everything that had happened over the past few months. The timing of my client losses, the sudden change in Marcus's attitude toward my success, and now his private conversation with Ryan. It all seemed too coincidental. I decided to do some investigating. The next day, I reached out to one of my former clients under the pretense of asking for feedback that might help me improve my services for future projects. After some gentle probing, she finally admitted that someone had contacted her with concerns about my business practices and professionalism. She would not tell me who had called her, but she mentioned that the person claimed to be looking out for her best interests and had provided what seemed like inside information about problems with my work quality and reliability. The caller had been very persuasive and professional, and had even offered to recommend alternative design services. My heart started racing as the pieces fell into place. I contacted the other clients I had lost, using the same approach, and discovered that they had all received similar phone calls from someone warning them about potential problems with my services. But I needed proof before I could accuse Marcus of sabotaging my business. I decided to set a trap. I created a fake potential client inquiry using a friend's name and contact information. The client was supposedly interested in a major rebranding project for a fictional company, exactly the type of high-value work that would be attractive to any marketing professional. I made sure to mention this potential client opportunity during a family dinner where Marcus was present. I talked about how excited I was about the project and how it could really help turn my business around. Marcus seemed very interested in the details, asking specific questions about the client's budget and timeline. Within 2 days, my friend received a phone call from someone claiming to have concerns about my professionalism and work quality. The caller was smooth, professional, and very convincing. He suggested that the client might want to consider other options, and even offered to provide referrals to more established design firms. My friend played along perfectly, asking for the caller's name and contact information so she could research the alternative options he had suggested. The caller identified himself as Marcus, provided his business phone number, and even sent a follow-up email with recommendations for other design services. I finally had the proof I needed. But as I dug deeper into Marcus's sabotage campaign, I discovered that his betrayal was even more extensive than I had realized. He had not just been calling my existing clients and potential new clients. He had been systematically destroying my professional reputation throughout our entire business community. Marcus had been attending networking events where he would casually mention concerns about my business practices to other professionals. He had been spreading rumors that I was unreliable, overpriced, and difficult to work with. He had even gone so far as to create fake online reviews criticizing my services on various business platforms. The most devastating discovery was that Marcus had been positioning himself as the concerned family member who was trying to protect people from my supposedly poor business practices. He had been using his established reputation and charm to make himself appear credible, while systematically destroying my credibility. But why was Marcus so determined to destroy my success? I soon discovered the answer, and it was even more twisted than I had imagined. Through some careful research and conversations with mutual business contacts, I learned that Marcus had been struggling with his own company for the past year. Despite his outward appearance of success, his marketing consultancy was facing serious financial problems. He had lost several major clients and was behind on his office rent and other business expenses. Marcus had been maintaining his lifestyle and reputation by using credit and loans, but he was drowning in debt. The stress of his failing business, combined with watching my success grow, had driven him to a breaking point of jealousy and desperation. Even worse, I discovered that Marcus had been stealing some of my design concepts and pitching them to potential clients as his own work. He had been using information I had shared with him about my projects and strategies to try to salvage his own failing business. Marcus had not just been sabotaging my success out of jealousy. He had been trying to steal my success for himself. Armed with all this information, I began planning my revenge. Marcus had declared war on my livelihood and my marriage, and I was going to make sure he paid the price for his betrayal. First, I documented everything. I had recordings of the phone calls he had made to my fake client, screenshots of the fake reviews he had posted, and evidence of the concepts he had stolen from me. I also gathered information about his financial problems and the lies he had been telling about his business success. Next, I reached out to all the clients I had lost and the potential clients who had been scared away by Marcus's lies. I presented them with evidence of his sabotage campaign and explained how they had been manipulated. Most of them were horrified to learn the truth, and several immediately offered to resume working with me. But I was not satisfied with just reclaiming my lost business. Marcus had tried to destroy my entire career and my marriage. He deserved to face the full consequences of his actions. I decided to expose Marcus at the annual business networking gala that he never missed. It was the biggest professional event of the year in our city, attended by hundreds of business owners, community leaders, and potential clients. Marcus would be there, probably trying to drum up business to save his failing company. I purchased a booth at the event, ostensibly to promote my graphic design services. But what I actually created was a comprehensive presentation exposing Marcus's sabotage campaign, his business failures, and his unethical practices. I prepared a professional-looking display that included printed copies of the evidence I had gathered, along with a detailed timeline of Marcus's actions. I also created a video presentation that played on loop, featuring the recorded phone calls where Marcus had lied about my services and the fake reviews he had posted online. The booth was designed to look like a legitimate business presentation at first glance, but anyone who stopped to read the materials would quickly realize they were looking at a detailed exposé of Marcus's fraudulent behavior. On the night of the gala, Marcus arrived dressed in his most expensive suit, working the room with his usual charm and confidence. He had no idea what was waiting for him. As people began to notice my booth and read the materials, word spread quickly through the event. Within an hour, a crowd had gathered around my display, and people were taking photos of the evidence with their phones. Marcus was in the middle of a conversation with a potential client when someone approached him and asked if he was the Marcus featured in the fraud exposé across the room. The look of confusion and then horror on his face was absolutely priceless. He rushed over to my booth, pushing through the crowd of people who were reading about his lies and deception. When he saw the comprehensive display of his sabotage campaign, his face went completely white. Marcus tried to argue with me, claiming that I was spreading lies and threatening to sue me for defamation. But I calmly pointed to the recorded evidence playing on the video screen and the documented proof of his actions. Everything I had presented was factual and verifiable. The crowd around us grew larger as Marcus became more agitated and defensive. People were filming the confrontation with their phones, and I could see several local business reporters in the crowd taking notes. Finally, Marcus stormed out of the event, but the damage was already done. The story of his sabotage campaign and business fraud spread throughout the business community within days. The aftermath was swift and devastating for Marcus. Several of his remaining clients terminated their contracts immediately after learning about his unethical behavior. The local business journal published an article about the incident, featuring quotes from people who had witnessed the confrontation at the gala. Marcus's professional reputation was completely destroyed. No one in the business community wanted to work with someone who had been exposed as a liar and saboteur. His company folded within 2 months, and he was forced to declare bankruptcy. The stress of his public humiliation and financial ruin took a severe toll on Marcus's mental health. He became increasingly isolated and paranoid, convinced that everyone was talking about him and judging him. His relationships with friends and family members became strained as the full extent of his behavior became known. Ryan was absolutely horrified when he learned the truth about his brother's actions. He felt betrayed and manipulated, realizing that Marcus had been using him as a weapon against me. Ryan immediately apologized for doubting me and became one of my strongest supporters as I rebuilt my business. The relationship between Ryan and Marcus was permanently damaged. Ryan could not forgive his brother for trying to destroy our marriage and my livelihood out of jealousy and spite. Marcus had lost not only his business and reputation, but also the respect and love of his younger brother. My business, meanwhile, flourished in the aftermath of the exposé. The publicity from the networking gala incident actually brought me more attention and clients than I had ever had before. People were impressed by how I had handled the situation with professionalism and documented evidence, and they wanted to work with someone who clearly had integrity and backbone. Within 6 months, my business had grown to the point where I needed to hire additional staff. I was earning more money than Marcus had ever made with his consultancy, and I was doing it through honest work and genuine talent rather than lies and manipulation. The most satisfying part of my revenge was not just Marcus's downfall, but the way his own actions had created the very outcome he had been trying to prevent. His jealousy of my success had driven him to behaviors that ultimately made me more successful than I ever would have been otherwise. Marcus had tried to destroy my career because he could not handle watching me succeed while his own business was failing. Instead, his sabotage campaign had backfired spectacularly, leaving him with nothing while elevating me to new heights of success and recognition. A year later, I heard through Ryan that Marcus had moved to another city, supposedly to start over. But his reputation had followed him, and he was struggling to find any kind of professional work. Meanwhile, I was featured on the cover of a regional business magazine as one of the area's most promising young entrepreneurs. The last I heard, Marcus was working as a sales associate at a retail store, barely making enough money to cover his basic living expenses. His dreams of business success and professional recognition were completely shattered, destroyed by his own jealousy and unethical choices. Sometimes I wonder if Marcus realizes that he created his own downfall. If he had simply supported my success instead of trying to sabotage it, he might have been able to turn his own business around. Instead, his jealousy and greed led him to make choices that destroyed everything he had worked for. But I do not feel sorry for him. Marcus made a calculated decision to try to ruin my life and my marriage because he could not handle my success. He deserves every consequence of his actions. The experience taught me valuable lessons about family, trust, and the importance of standing up for yourself when people try to tear you down. It also showed me that sometimes the best revenge is simply allowing people to face the natural consequences of their own bad choices. Marcus thought he could destroy my success and get away with it because we were family. He learned the hard way that betrayal has a price, and that price is often higher than the betrayer ever imagined. Today, my business continues to thrive, my marriage is stronger than ever, and I have the satisfaction of knowing that I handled a difficult situation with integrity and strength. Marcus, on the other hand, will spend years rebuilding from the ruins of the life he destroyed with his own hands. That is what real karma looks like. Not just punishment, but the natural consequence of choosing jealousy and betrayal over support and integrity. If this story of family betrayal and sweet karma left you satisfied and craving more, you have found your new favorite channel. At Revenge Janet, we serve up the most intense, spine-chilling revenge stories where justice always prevails and karma hits harder than ever. From toxic family members to cheating partners, lying friends to backstabbing colleagues, we bring you expertly crafted tales where the betrayers always get exactly what they deserve. Hit that subscribe button and join our community of karma believers who know that what goes around comes around with interest. New revenge stories uploaded regularly, each one more satisfying than the last. Welcome to Revenge Janet, where betrayal meets justice, and karma never misses its target.